Have you noticed that some luxury cruises no longer seem built for the people who once loved them most? Many longtime passengers are starting to sense that the comfort, quiet, and personal attention they once trusted is slowly being replaced by something else. Lounges that once felt peaceful can now seem crowded. Open decks can sound louder. Even simple service can seem more rushed than it used to. And because nothing looks obviously wrong, many travelers begin to wonder if they are the only ones noticing it. But that is where the deeper concern begins, because some loyal guests are now asking a question they never expected to ask. Is luxury cruising still truly luxury anymore? This shift is not something cruise lines announce clearly, and most passengers only understand it once they are already on board. Step by step, ships are being designed to carry more guests, run more continuous activity, and keep every area of the ship in use throughout the day. On paper, it looks like improvement and growth. But when you are actually inside that environment, the experience can start to feel slightly different in ways that are hard to explain at first. A place you remember as calm can suddenly have more movement around you. A quiet corner you once used to sit in peace might now have people passing through more often than before. Even simple routines, like choosing a seat for dinner or walking through familiar areas, can feel less predictable than you remember. Not because anything is wrong, but because the number of people sharing the same space has quietly increased. And what makes this harder to notice is that there is no single moment where everything changes. Instead, it builds slowly until one day you realize the feeling you remember is not quite the same anymore. At first glance, everything still looks exactly like a luxury cruise should. The design is clean, the lighting is elegant, and the main areas still give that polished first impression people expect. But once you spend more time on board, something begins to shift in a way that is hard to ignore, even if nothing is officially different. A lounge that you remember as almost empty at certain hours may now have a steady flow of people moving through it. You sit down expecting calm, but there is often background movement, small interruptions, and a constant sense that the space is being used more actively than before. Even simple routines, like finding a quiet seat for a short break, do not feel automatic anymore. You become more aware of timing, space, and how many others are sharing the same areas at the same moment. Nothing is labeled as reduced or downgraded, yet the feeling changes the longer you stay inside it. And the strange part is this: nothing feels wrong on its own, but when you compare it to what you remember from before, you start realizing the experience is no longer the same kind of luxury it used to be. What most passengers never truly notice is that today's cruise experience is no longer built around just the ticket price. The ticket gets you on board, but what happens next is where the real design begins. As you move through the ship, you don't feel pushed anywhere, yet you start to realize your path rarely stays random for long. You walk toward one area, and it naturally connects to another. A relaxing route toward entertainment often passes through places where something extra is being offered. A simple stroll to a lounge quietly takes you past shops or upgraded experiences without you actively choosing it. At first, it feels normal, just how a ship is designed. But after a while, you begin to notice a pattern forming in the background. Even daily routines start to feel slightly shaped. Where people gather, where shows are placed, and how activities are timed all seem to gently move passengers through the same flowing routes again and again. Nothing feels forced in the moment, which is exactly why it is easy to miss what is happening. And then comes the realization many travelers describe later, once they step back and think about it. What feels like natural movement and personal choice is actually a carefully arranged flow of attention across the entire ship. You are still free to go anywhere, but the experience is quietly guiding where you end up spending your time. When all of these changes come together, a clearer picture starts to form even if it is never openly stated by cruise lines. Luxury cruising is not disappearing, but it is slowly shifting away from the quiet, personal feeling many long-time travelers remember. The ships still look impressive, the comfort is still there, but the experience no longer feels as individually centered once you are actually living inside it. For future travelers, this quietly changes what a luxury cruise means before they even step on board. What used to feel like a calm escape can now feel more active, more shared, and more shaped by the presence of large numbers of guests moving through the same spaces. And the most interesting part is that there is no single moment where you notice it happening. It only becomes clear when you realize how rare true silence and space now feel compared to what you remember. Because of this, many experienced passengers start changing their choices without fully explaining why. They begin paying closer attention to ship size, passenger capacity, and sailing times, because these small details now decide how the entire journey will feel. Slowly, luxury stops being something defined only by price or design, and becomes something defined by how the experience is structured around you. And once you understand that, there is a final realization that stays with you. Luxury at sea is no longer just something you book. It is something you experience differently depending on how it has been designed, and once you notice that shift, you can't really unsee it anymore. When you put everything together, one final reality becomes difficult to ignore. Luxury cruising is not just becoming more modern or more crowded. It is slowly turning into an experience where space, movement, and timing quietly shape your entire day more than most people ever notice. The ships are still impressive, and the comfort is still there, but the feeling of slow, personal luxury is no longer something you can assume will always be present in the same way. What once felt like long, uninterrupted calm is now more often defined by constant flow. People moving, spaces being used, and the day naturally staying in motion from start to finish. And this is the point where the shift becomes clear. Luxury is no longer just about how a cruise looks or how much it costs. It is about how much quiet, space, and control over your own pace you actually get once you are inside it. Some travelers will still find that experience, but now it depends far more on design and structure than on the name of the cruise or the price they paid. And once you notice that pattern, it doesn't stay as information anymore. It quietly changes how you interpret every cruise you have already taken, and every one you might take in the future. And once you start noticing how cruise experiences are actually shaped, it becomes harder to look at them in a simple way again. Two cruises that look almost identical on a brochure can feel completely different once you understand how much of the onboard experience is influenced by flow, timing, and how spaces guide your day without you thinking about it. That is where many travelers quietly shift their mindset. They stop asking only, "Where is this cruise going?" and start asking something more personal, "What will my actual days feel like once I'm inside it?" Because the truth is, most decisions about comfort, space, and relaxation are not obvious at the moment of booking. They are felt later, when there is no easy way to change them. And that small realization changes how you see yourself as a traveler too. You stop being someone who just picks a cruise, and start becoming someone who pays attention to how experiences are designed around you before you step on board. If you want to keep seeing these hidden layers before your next voyage, stay with Port to Port Life, because the next insight we'll cover is something most passengers only recognize after their cruise is already over. And by then, the realization changes how they book forever.